She wore my dead mother's dress to dinner, so I took everything back. If you enjoy stories about karma, family betrayal, and quiet revenge, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this story reach more people, and it helps this channel keep bringing you stories just like it. Now, let's get into it. Angie was 19 years old. She lived at home with her father, her stepmother, and her stepsister Rhonda. She was a pretty young woman with long blonde hair, a warm smile, and the kind of easy friendliness that made her one of the most well-liked people in her small town. Whenever she passed someone on the street or behind the counter at work, she greeted them like she meant it, because she did. People responded to that. They always had. There were only 2 people in the world who didn't care for Angie, and unfortunately, for her, they were the 2 people she lived with every single day. Her stepmother had never warmed to her, not once. Not even in the early years when Angie was still a child trying to understand why her father had remarried so quickly. And Rhonda, her stepsister, had made her dislike for Angie known in 100 small ways over the years. Snide comments, cold shoulders, the kind of quiet cruelty that never quite crossed the line into something Angie could confront directly, but that wore on her all the same. Angie decided a long time ago that she wouldn't let it bother her. She had a plan, and she was sticking to it. She worked every overtime shift she could get at the small dress shop downtown, folding blouses, ringing up customers, restocking shelves long after closing time, all so she could save enough money to finally move out on her own. Every dollar went into an envelope hidden in the back of her closet. She counted it often, watching it grow, imagining the day she would carry that money out the front door and never look back. Rhonda, 2 years older than Angie, had never worked a single day in her life. She drifted through her 20s with no particular direction and even less personality, content to let her mother make excuses for her. Her stepmother liked to tell people around town that Rhonda was simply waiting for a job that matched her intelligence, as though the right position hadn't been invented yet. Angie knew better. She knew Rhonda hated her, plainly and without much effort to hide it, and still, Angie chose to be kind. She let Rhonda borrow her clothes when she asked. She let her borrow her jewelry too. There was only one thing in her closet that was never up for negotiation, and Angie had made that clear more than once. It was a dress her mother had sewn for her by hand, finished just months before she passed away 2 years earlier. It wasn't flashy or expensive. It was simple, pale blue, with careful stitching along the hem that only a mother's hands could have done with that much patience. To anyone else, it might have looked like an ordinary dress hanging quietly at the end of the closet rod. To Angie, it was the last thing her mother ever made for her, and it was not going anywhere. One evening, Angie came home from work later than usual after covering an extra shift for a coworker. The rest of the family was already seated at the dinner table when she walked in, tired and hungry, ready to sit down and eat. Instead, she stopped in the doorway, and for a moment she couldn't quite process what she was looking at. Rhonda was sitting there in her mother's dress, smoothing the fabric over her lap like it belonged to her, laughing at something on her phone as if nothing were wrong at all. Something in Angie went very still and very cold at the same time. She had let a lot of things slide over the years. She had told herself it wasn't worth the fight, that keeping the peace mattered more than winning small battles. But this was not a small battle. This was her mother. "Take it off," Angie said, her voice quiet but firm. "Take it off right now." Rhonda barely looked up. Her stepmother, on the other hand, rose from her chair immediately, crossed the room in a few sharp steps, and slapped Angie hard across the face before another word could be said. The sound of it seemed to hang in the air longer than it should have. Angie's father sat at the head of the table and said nothing. He didn't stand, didn't intervene, didn't even meet her eyes. Rhonda simply smiled, satisfied, and went back to her phone. Angie didn't cry in front of them. She turned and walked upstairs, closed her bedroom door quietly behind her, and sat down on the edge of her bed. Once she was alone, she pulled out the envelope from the back of her closet and counted every bill inside it, praying it would be enough to leave that very night. It wasn't. Not yet. She put the money away, turned off the light, and lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling, promising herself it wouldn't be much longer. A week after that night, Angie's grandfather passed away. He was her mother's father, and with her mother gone, Angie was his only living heir. Her stepmother assumed, quite confidently, that the beautiful old house he owned on the edge of town, the one she had always admired from the road and mentioned, at every family gathering, would end up in her and Angie's father's hands. She was wrong. When the will was read, everything he owned, the house, his savings, all of it, had been left entirely to Angie. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Angie felt something close to relief. She could finally leave. She could walk out of that house and never spend another night listening to her stepmother's cold remarks or Rhonda's snide little comments under her breath. She could start over, somewhere that was truly hers. Before she left, there was one thing she needed to do. She went into Rhonda's room and quietly gathered up everything that had once been hers, the clothes, the jewelry, every piece she had loaned out of kindness over the years. She packed it all carefully into boxes, carried the boxes down to her car, and loaded them in the dark. Then she went to bed, more at peace than she had felt in months, knowing that in the morning she would drive away from that house for the very last time and start her new life in her grandfather's home. She slept deeply that night, deeper than she had in a long time, so deeply, in fact, that she never heard her bedroom door creak open sometime after midnight. She never heard footsteps cross her floor, never felt anything at all. When her alarm went off the next morning, she got up feeling rested and hopeful, walked into the bathroom to brush her teeth before the long drive ahead of her, and looked into the mirror. Her long blonde hair, the hair she had always been so proud of, had been dyed jet black while she slept. For a moment, she just stared at her reflection, taking in what had been done to her in the night. Then, instead of breaking down the way someone might have expected, she set her jaw, finished getting ready, and carried the rest of her boxes downstairs without a single tear. Rhonda and her stepmother were already waiting at the bottom of the stairs when she came down, clearly hoping to see her fall apart. Her father stood off to the side, staring at her hair in visible shock, but he still didn't say a word. He never did. Angie didn't say anything either. She walked past all three of them, carried her last box out to the car, and drove away without so much as a glance in the rearview mirror. Her first stop wasn't her new house. It was the hairdresser. She sat in the chair and asked for it all to be cut off, short, clean, something completely her own. When the stylist spun the chair back, around to face the mirror, Angie almost didn't recognize herself, but in the best way possible. The short style suited her, softer around her face, effortless, like it had been waiting for her all along. They had tried to take something from her in the night. Instead, they had accidentally given her something better. From there, she drove straight to her grandfather's house and began unpacking her boxes in a home that was finally completely her own. They had ruined her hair, but they could not ruin her life. Not anymore. It didn't take long for word to spread through town about what had happened, the way word always does in a small place like that. People heard about the dress, the slap. The hair died in the middle of the night while a 19-year-old girl slept peacefully, believing her family, however broken, wouldn't go that far. And people responded the way Angie had always responded to them, with honesty and without hesitation. Dinner invitations to her stepmother stopped coming. Rhonda found herself excluded from gatherings she used to take for granted. Slowly, quietly, the two of them became outcasts in the very town they had once looked down on Angie in, undone entirely by their own greed and jealousy. Angie, meanwhile, settled into her new home and her new life. She was happy there, genuinely happy, in a way she hadn't felt in years. Every single day she found herself thankful for her grandfather and the gift he had left her, a gift that turned out to be far more than a house. It was a way out. As for her father, she made her decision clear and never wavered from it. She cut ties with him completely and told him, plainly, never to show up at her door again. He never did. If this story hit home for you, do not forget to like this video, and subscribe for more stories about family, betrayal, and the moments when people finally get exactly what they deserve. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.